and they want to just help enrich, different games and board games and give another like interesting spin on. I know history isn't everyone's favorite subject, so giving sort of a new spin and take on it, and that's about it for that. So, you.
Wonderful. Are there any questions for Senator Schmidt tonight? Once, going twice. Seeing none, with that, we'll move on to internal committee reports, of which we have none, and then on to officer reports, starting with the report of our president.
Good evening. I want to discuss by talking a little bit about Veterans Day, and by telling a story about my grandfather, Sergeant James O'Toole of the United States Marine Corps. Enlisted right out of high school, was over in Vietnam, he and his brother. My grandfather was infantry on the ground in many famous battles, and his brother was actually the one who would feed the ammo belts into the machine guns on the Huey helicopters. They both made it home safely, where my grandfather, who grew up in New Jersey, moved to Chicago for whatever reason, must have been a feeling. Met my grandmother. They had 3 kids, including my mother. Those kids will have to have children of their own. Me, no. And bam, there I was. And it was a fantastic time. I think I'm really good at storytelling. Is everybody locked in? Well, in 2016, 2017, my grandfather was diagnosed with lung cancer from exposure to Agent Orange while in Vietnam. Anybody know what Agent Orange is? Oh no, it was an herbicide. So what they did is they sprayed it all over the jungle, and the leaves would fall off the trees so they could see the enemies up in the trees. It was thought to be safe. Turns out it was not. And so decades after my grandfather was out of the Marine Corps, I was diagnosed with lung cancer and died in less than a year. So to John's point earlier, you kind of stole my thunder, but who better than the veteran himself? The sacrifice that our veterans pay is sometimes not realized until long after they're out of the uniform. So keep that in mind as we celebrate days like today. Today is a happy day when we celebrate all of those who have served. So that's my story about Veterans Day. I want to get into my report here. It's going to be a very busy week. There was a Veterans Day event this morning that was really nice. There was a great turnout. It was awesome. I was right next to his brother. Parker and I are holding interviews for the PR position. Tomorrow morning, I'll be meeting with Chancellor, members of the Chancellor's Cabinet, and shared governance leaders. Faculty Senate's meeting 2 p.m. on Tuesday in this very room. As a reminder for your parliamentarian, that will count as an office hour and an outreach event if you attend. Later on in the week, I'll be meeting with other student shared governance leaders from all across system. Okay, and then there will be a Chancellor's Committee on Student Success. Senator Dewey and I will be at that. I'm meeting with Vice Chancellor Brenda Jones. Constitutional Revision Committee meets on Wednesday. I meet with Gabby Drale on Friday. And Saturday, a few of us are going up to a tailgate before the game, the Badgers versus the Ducks, at President Rothman's house. So a busy week indeed. Please ask questions if you have any throughout the week, but I will yield.
Any questions for President Bradley? Starting with Deputy Speaker Earl.
Do you have a timeline for when you will announce the new PR director?
We'll announce by the end of the week, and so to get approved on next Monday, a week from today.
Any other questions, Deputy Speaker Earl?
Do you know what you and the other what the other student shared governance leaders will be discussing during your meeting?
It has been kept relatively vague, so I'm quite interested. There has been some disappointment expressed by other shared governance leaders. To give you all some feedback, this was a meeting requested by a student body president at another university, and many of the presidents are expressing concerns, but the meeting is still on, still scheduled, and I will keep you posted. But no, there is no set agenda yet, or not even really a topic. It's just somebody's called a meeting, and I'll go see what it's about.
Sounds good. Any other questions for the president? Once, twice. Seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report of the Vice President. Parker Bain.
Good evening, y'all, and happy Veterans Day. Last week I was busy organizing PR interviews, and then this week, obviously, Doug and I will be facilitating those. We have a candidate selected by Friday. So more to come on that. I'll be meeting with directors Ballesteri, Smith, and Robinson this week for one-on-ones, and I'll also be having a meeting with President Bradley and Advisor Bilgan. And then finally, I'll be attending tailgate with President Bradley and
And I use my report.
Any questions for Vice President Bain? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report of our WSG Vice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hello, everyone. Would just add my thanks to all of you who persevered and hopefully had a little bit of fun on Tuesday, working or watching the organized circus that was our on-campus polling place. I think we could only do what was in our scope of not control, organization. And I so appreciated everyone who hopped in and just did whatever needed to be done. I would also say to do what you can to recognize our veterans and their families the other 363 days of the year. One of the things that I learned from my dad, who's a veteran of the Army, we figured it out later in his life that he was on guard duty the night they tested the 2 nuclear devices and saw the flashes. And they told him, and when he was in basic training, to pay attention because he would be on the ground forces when they invaded Japan, which is what they would have done if they would have not developed the, unfortunately, but fortunately, right, depending on how you look at it, the nuclear weapons that we have today. So it was always a lesson that he taught me that even though the stuff that you may be doing in the moment, because he discharged veterans 24/7 in Fort Sheridan, that was his duty because he didn't have to go to Japan. So they discharged people 24/7, and he often thought that it was a mundane job, but later in life, he learned that sometimes you have to do the mundane in order to make things good for everyone around you. And that's what you do every day, and that's what you did on Tuesday. So I just wanted to share that story. The other thing that I've talked with Parliamentary Petrinkas, I'm going to give you some fun things to do in meetings to make things work better and help as parliamentary procedure is meant to do. So tonight, I think I talked about it last week, but just as a friendly reminder, the difference between moving the question and calling the question. When people have started to repeat themselves ad nauseum, and you get on the speakers list and are recognized by the speaker, you can call the question. Mr. Speaker, I would like to call the question, please. All I have to say, and that means like, dude, are we done talking yet? Right? And then anyone in the room, sorry, very casual, but that's what I would be thinking if I did that, right? Anyone in the room can say, I object. Or the speaker will say, are there any objections? If you say, yep, me, or I object, or any of that, then we go right back to the speakers list and conversation continues, but everybody in the room kind of got a clue that some of y'all, right, want to move on. So it can be very helpful in that manner. If you're really serious and you call the question and things are really, really going on, you can say, once you're recognized, raise my hand, the speaker says, Madam Advisor, said I would move the question. There has to be a second by someone other than you. And at that point, there is no discussion. It goes directly to a vote. You will vote aye to end discussion or nay to continue the conversation. And if it passes, then you go to voting on whatever the motion was. So it's basically voting. So in some things where it's a little more cantankerous, moving the question can be helpful and it's much more permanent and it forces the hand of the org to say, yes, I'm done, no, I'm not. And sometimes it can help the speaker look at the speakers list and be like, well, okay, Bilgan voted no. Do you wish to speak? No, okay, it helps move, if it does not pass even, the conversation along. So if I say, I call the question, the speaker is going to say, are there any objections? And you would say, objection or I object, right? Are there any objections?
Object.
All right, continue with our discussion. Mr. Speaker calls on me. I move the question. One of you would say,
Second.
thank you. That means we're going to vote, okay? That's all I have, and I yield to questions, Mr. Speaker.
Wonderful. Before we move into that document that's about to be shared with you, all of that is listed in there. So take a deep look at that, and if you have any questions, obviously, Advisor Bilgan, myself, or any other member of Senate leadership, we'd love to break that down for you. It's quite a bit. With that said, any questions for Advisor Bilgan? Going once, going twice, seeing none, with that, we'll move to the e-board reports, starting with the report of Director of Academic.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had a great weekend. So last week, I had a bi-weekly meeting with Josh Reed, the Director of Career Services. We discussed the Student Advisory Board, which will be meeting this Friday. So we talked about the agenda and some things moving forward with that. And then I also volunteered for, it was only an hour compared to all day that Director Smith had in the Hamilton room for voter support. So thank you again, Director Smith, for all that. And then I attended the Curricular Innovation Conference. So thank you to all of the senators, Speaker Wilson, Associate Director Balistreri, Deputy Speaker Irwin for going to that. We talked about AI, and I thought it was a really good conversation. And the faculty and staff can take some of the feedback and implement that into curriculum. As far as this week, I will be attending Faculty Senate tomorrow. I have an advising strategic action plan meeting, and one of the things we're going to talk about are the 4-year plans. So we were tasked with providing feedback on those templates, so we will be discussing that tomorrow. And then we also have the Constitutional Revision Committee meeting Wednesday night, and then I have a meeting about Young Auditoriums Advisory Board this Wednesday as well. So with that, actually, tomorrow, Academic and Student Affairs Committee meeting, we'll have a meeting at 8 a.m. in UC 268. With that, I yield to any questions.
Any questions for Director Advisor? Going once, going twice, seeing none, with that, we'll move into the report of Director of Student Affairs, Drew Robinson.
Good evening. I look forward to continuing to work with the Dean of Students Office. As stated previously, Academic and Student Affairs Committee will meet tomorrow at 8 a.m. UC 268. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield to your questions.
Any questions for Director Robinson? Going once, going twice, seeing none, with that, we will move into the report of somebody whom I'd like to thank on a day like today. Somebody who serves in the Air National Guard, our Director of Student Affairs, Associate Director of Student Affairs, Joe Balister. So thank you, Joe. What do you have to report?
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's good to see y'all. So last week I was working with Vice President Bain to kind of coordinate a meeting with Chief Kinderlin for November 21st. Then I also met with Matt Schneider discussing potential restructuring of intramural sports. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go. This upcoming week, I'm going to be having another conversation with Matt, just a follow-up meeting. I'm also going to have a meeting with Terry Tomarello for housing concerns. And something that I didn't list here is that today actually I reached out to the Associate Director of Building Operations, Ben Smith, to work on some concerns that were brought up to my attention by Senator Carter, so thank you for that. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. Have a great week and go Warhawks.
Wonderful. Any questions for Associate Director Balister? Going twice, seeing none, with that, we'll move to the report of the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs. One second.
Hey y'all, again, thank you so much to everyone who helped out with the election. Could not have done it without all of you. I'll be returning to election-related initiatives next week. I'm mostly taking a break this week to hopefully finally kick whatever this illness is. But if you need anything, feel free to reach out. I'll still be checking my email. I'll still be around the office. I'll just mostly be there chilling. So I yield to questions.
Any questions for Director Smith? Going once, going twice, seeing none, with that, we'll move into the report of WSG Clerk Notice.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to yield most of my report just until after the results are verified or not. But if they are verified, I will be reaching out to potential senators pending results, the approval of the results, and that it will be pretty complex this year, as you will see when you look at the results. So I look forward to it. If you have any questions, please email me or feel free to have students submit things on the website. I get them right away to my mailbox, my email, and I forward them, so.
Any questions for Quick Merits? And once or twice, seeing none, with that, we'll move to the report of our here, Senate Parliamentarian.
Monday. Reminder that your last outreach event is due next week Friday. It's not this Friday, but 1 week after that. Make sure you do it. Some of you have already gotten it, which is amazing. Make sure everyone do it. I'm looking to do an end of semester, end of term survey of what your thoughts on outreach events are, and what they should look like in the future. So start thinking of those now. That'll be sent out likely this week, or early next week. And then email me with questions and feedback next week. So.
Any questions for Parliamentarian Patricus? Or much President Brad?
Is it true that Faculty Senate tomorrow count as an outreach event?
It does. So if you're looking for something, you can get one done early. It's in this room, isn't it?
It is.
What time?
2 p.m.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions for Parliamentarian Patricus tonight? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, we'll move into the report of Deputy Speaker Blaker.
Good evening, everyone. Last week I had Senate leadership as always and attended the Curricular Innovation Conference, which was fascinating. This week, meeting with Senate leadership, Constitutional Revision Committee will be meeting, and I'll add that the chair extended the deadline till midnight tonight to make edits to the standing rules. So it is not too late to make any edits. Remember, up until midnight, Senate leadership and the chair and secretary of the committee are available to talk with you about any edits or questions you have regarding these standing rules. So, library services meeting this week. If you have any thoughts about the library, please reach out to me and I will convey those. Finally, then SUFAC training. If you missed the SUFAC the Senate retreat where we discussed SUFAC stuff, you will be receiving an email from me later tonight with materials to look at and a quiz to take. This is something you need to do. It will also include a when to meet to set up a meeting with me. Please fill out that time so we can meet sometime this week or next week Monday so that we can go over Senate retreat info and make sure that you are prepared to vote, and so you are prepared when the Senate addresses the SUFAC allocation. The materials will also be sent out to every member of the Senate in case you want to review what you learned at the Senate retreat, and all members of Senate leadership are available for meetings if you want to set up a meeting with us to rehash it or if you have any questions. Finally, I'd like to take some time to note 3 senators, Parliamentarian Patricus, Senator Esterholm, and Senator West. These are the only 3 individuals who are elected to the Senate who reached the required 50 signatures to appear on the ballot. In the unofficial results, they are also the senators who received by far and away the highest number of votes. So clearly, they are doing an exceptional job representing WSG to the campus and connecting with their constituents and our models that we should all strive to emulate. A round of applause for our senators. Thank you, and I yield to questions.
Are there any questions for Deputy Speaker Irwin? Going once, going twice, seeing none, we'll move into my report. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm a little sore. So last week I did Senate leadership as always, helped out a bit with the election, of which Orr did a fantastic job. I worked on that Robert's Rules cheat sheet, of which I'm going to share out with all of you. If you have any questions, again, it's going to be a lot. I like to think it's particularly readable, but in that way that when you're building a spreadsheet, by the end it looks really readable to you and might not look readable to somebody else. Please come touch base with me if it's maybe less understandable than was designed to be interpreted. So obviously I'm available like all the time. I did some senator onboarding one-on-ones. touch base with folks kind of in the middle of our semester to make sure that things are going well. I'm going to continue doing some of those in the next couple of weeks here about January, about the election that just passed, the WSG when that is, about what the future in the org looks like for you and what this latter half of this semester could look like in terms of your involvement. So if you start seeing meetings pop up in your calendars or I start texting you and asking when you're available, that's why. I also went to the Curricular Innovation Conference last week. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I really love AI. I'm a real AI nerd, so thank you so much, Director Reiser, for inviting me and some other senators. It was great to see some familiar faces and chat about how curriculum will be influenced by AI in the coming months and years and decades, maybe. So this week, at Senate leadership, as always, we have the Constitutional Revision Committee meeting on Wednesday. Like Deputy Speaker Irwin said, that closes at midnight tonight. If you have questions, you can text me or whatnot. But take a look. I think the last time I checked, there's over 300 changes on that document right now. It's getting pretty extensive. So if you'd like to add any or comment on any existing changes that have started to populate that document, please do so. You are running out of time. You've got less than 6 hours. So I also have the election meeting, never mind. And later in the week, I will be going to the tailgate at Jay Rothman's house this weekend. So, are there any questions? Otherwise, I yield to my questions. Seeing none, with that, when my brain is all straightened out, we will move into unfinished business, starting with F 242505. Expectations for advisory boards. Director Reiser and Director Robinson, the floor is yours.
All right, so we're here again. As an executive board, we've had extensive conversations about this piece of legislation. And we believe that it is in the best interest of students for us to table this indefinitely. Our plan is to work with shared governance leaders and the chancellor to implement this directly, this expectations document, rather than going through a formal piece of legislation. When this first started, the idea was to have it be a student advisory board, and then we had more conversations, and we thought it would be, again, in the best interest of students to have it be a campus-wide advisory board. So what that means is the stakeholders that are listed in the expectations document, like shared governance leaders, students that are in the unit, faculty and staff, they would be part of it rather than it just being students. So with that being said, we all, if a parent, can understand that legislation is very important. Hence, we had a conversation last week, and it was about a 3-hour meeting. So it shows that we all understand that legislation should be done thoughtfully and strategically and not taken lightly. And so it would be important that as the submitters, we can go about our normal process and talk to these shared governance leaders that are going to be having conversations with their units. So Faculty Senate, the chair, will talk to the faculty. Academic Staff Assembly will talk to the staff. So it's important that before we pass a piece of legislation, that we can go about our normal process of talking to the stakeholders that we work on a day-to-day basis with before we pass this piece of legislation. So with that, I yield to any questions.
I would just add, it's similar to when, it will be a similar case to like if a faculty decided to make a decision for students without consulting WSG. It's literally the same concept, and we just feel like it would be unfair to not include them in the conversation. I know Doug has already had President Bradley has already had some conversations with shared governance, and they're working through some different channels. So we think that moving forward, that is a better process and procedure forward. And with that, I yield to any questions.
Questions for Mr. Hellman?
I would ask the directors, I was under the impression that the purpose of this legislation was to kind of hold faculty's feet to the fire, whereas they weren't going to make these advisory boards unless we sort of made them. Was that not the purpose of this legislation? I'd just like to be informed of the purpose.
No, the purpose still stands, but the normal executive board process is to collaborate, attempt to collaborate, work together, and then attempt to, when not provided the answers or progress isn't made, then we write legislation. What I would say is it was at the fault of our own. We were moving so quickly. We had some things that came up that kind of tied our hands to where we felt as if we needed to put feet to the fire, but we found out later in different conversations that there was already momentum in the right direction of where we were trying to go from administration. So the chief of staff was already working on something similar. So our approach was, why not attempt to collaborate versus burning a bridge or possibly upsetting somebody initially.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice, seeing none, with that we'll move into discussion. Is there any discussion on the matter, or is there anything you would like to entertain?
I would encourage the Senate to entertain a motion to table this legislation indefinitely.
Would anyone like to, okay, one minute.
I'm okay.
Senator Williams.
To, table indefinitely.
Wonderful. Seconded. Seconded by Deputy Speaker. With that, we'll move into discussion on the motion. Is there any discussion on that motion? That's good.
My placards this week, I'm so excited. I would never be so bold as to tell you how to vote. But I would say that by doing this, it will model to the other shared governance groups that when you want to collaborate initially, you have to sometimes reposition yourself in order to do that instead of backing them into a corner. They tend to respond a bit better. And they're different groups of people. The Faculty Senate is a different group than, let's say you want student activities and involvement to have an advisory board. So it's just modeling the type of respect that WSG would like to have shared back with them on other issues.
And I would highlight, and I would like to highlight, from this point on, it's no longer in the directors. I trust President Bradley to handle the affairs moving forward.
President Bradley.
Sure. Just so you all know, I met with Deputy Speaker Irwin and we came to an agreement and have a signed agreement between myself, all of the directors, Speaker Wilson and Deputy Speaker Irwin. Parliamentarian Patrikas did not sign one of these as he was in SUFAC. So that's the only reason, not that he declined it, in case you're wondering. But I'll read it. As it relates to the advisory board expectations, I'm requesting that should the current legislation be tabled indefinitely, or you draft any new legislation around the advisory boards or the advisory board expectations in the future, you must adhere to the following. Directors must utilize the Student Affairs Committee when drafting the advisory board expectations or any related legislation and or documents. Additionally, the Student Affairs Committee must have the final look over any document such legislation before they head to the Senate or are approved by administration. Furthermore, directors must submit their changes during the Student Affairs Committee to ensure the committee's support. All changes must be approved by the Student Affairs Committee before being shared with relevant campus stakeholders. Number 2, suggestions and edits made by relevant campus stakeholders must be shared with the Student Affairs Committee during the next scheduled committee meeting or as soon as possible. Number 3, all suggestions made by members of the Student Affairs Committee must be recorded and shared with myself, Vice President Bain, in addition to all members of sitting Senate leadership. This includes edits, comments, conversations had, and proposed made by the committee. Then finally, directors must keep the Student Affairs Committee updated as it relates to any meetings or conversations they've had with relevant campus stakeholders surrounding this topic. The reason we've come to this conclusion, or we made this agreement, was so that we could ensure the Senate and senators, especially on the Student Affairs Committee, will have a voice as we continue to draft this document.
Any other discussion on the matter? Deputy Speaker Irwin?
Yeah, I would just like to say, I know that some senators may feel some trepidation about voting for the motion to table, as it may seem like you are losing your chance to meaningfully contribute to this project. But as President Bradley was just highlighting, this agreement will ensure that every member of student government going forward has the chance to contribute to this process and make themselves useful to the formation of these advisory boards, which is why I intend to vote for the motion to table indefinitely.
Wonderful. Is there any other discussion on the matter? Going once, going twice. I would like to say that I will be in support of tabling indefinitely. It's largely because of a lot of the trust I have in Director Reiser, Director Robinson, President Bradley, but also because of the diligent work that went in between Deputy Speaker Irwin and President Bradley in drafting a document that I think really stresses the importance of utilizing the org when necessary and doing this kind of work, but also in utilizing your guys' expertise in your guys' context. So your folks' expertise in context. So I would encourage you and include myself to vote aye on tabling indefinitely. Any other discussion on the matter? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Yeah. So just so we're all aware, a vote of aye will be a vote to table the legislation indefinitely. A vote of nay would be to keep the bill on the floor for discussion. Table indefinitely means, so according to Robert's Rules of Order, if we proceed by tabling indefinitely, we are allowed to take it off the table in 1 week. If we do not take it off the table on the next meeting, of which I would not encourage you to do so, the legislation will essentially die, for lack of a better term. And if it were to be revisited later, we would be, I would be able to advise you to go.
I'm sorry, I just didn't mean to do the head shaking thing.
No, that's
Sorry.
okay.
When you table indefinitely, it goes away. You can't take it off the table. It can come back perhaps later in a different format, but you can't untable it. If you wanted to leave it on the table, you would have to move to leave it on the table. So this is just saying, this version, not so much. Maybe something later down the line will come back to you. Tabling indefinitely.
Okay.
I'll double check it.
Could you,
I'll do it right now.
I looked earlier today and I thought it said after 1 week you could take it off the table. Not that I would suggest anyone do this, but I think it's, you know.
Oh.
One of you is thinking.
Well,
Yeah, one of them is.
postpone needs a timeline, so you can't postpone anything indefinitely.
Well, and this organization that has been done. Tabling indefinitely is a parliamentary procedure that sets aside a motion without specific time to revisit. It's used when the body decides not to take action on a matter. So probably could interpret it either way, not trying to I'm not going to look it up on Jurassic Park line either because it's material.
We shouldn't take it off the table. With that, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Senator Carter,
Aye.
Senator Dorsey. Senator Dewey,
Aye.
Senator Irwin,
Aye.
Senator Esterholm, Senator Heinroll,
Aye.
Senator Houston,
Aye.
Senator Kelleher,
Aye.
Senator LePin,
Aye.
Senator Nielsen,
Aye.
Senator Rosequist,
Aye.
Senator Schmidt,
Aye.
Senator West,
Aye.
Senator Williams, Speaker Wilson.
Aye. And with that, R 242504, S 242502, expectations for advisory boards, has been set on the table indefinitely. And with that, we will move into new business, starting with the unofficial WSG Senate election results. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready, you have the floor.
Alright, hello everyone. I think it was on Friday that the elections committee met.
Yes.
We tallied all the votes. If you want to know what the process this looks like is literally me reading each write-in name and one by one. Luckily this year, the program with Connect2 was able to pull the numbers of those folks whose names were already on the ballot, which was nice, saved us a lot of time. But a lot more write-ins this year than usual. So typically the results do not look like this, but it's not a bad thing because it means we could have more potential senators this way. So how it kind of works is those in the boxes are those who want a seat. Now granted, these people did not yet confirm or deny if they want that seat. So let's say, this is a great example, we have Kayla Williams in both at large and off campus. So I will email Senator Williams which seat she would like, and that would open one on either here or here. So you may be wondering, why is there 2 boxes free and this whole list below? Well, if you look, you have a tie, a 3-way tie. So I can't just put Dylan and Owen up because that's what it is for Abby because she got the same number of votes. So that's where a tie break would have to be made. So basically, this list will shift a lot because it's a lot of emailing, confirming. People may be saying they do not want the seat. I would like to thank Director Emeritus McNeely for stepping in, and then the rest of the executive board as well for helping out during the entirety of the election. If Vice President Bain is able to scroll down, we do have Rock down here, so we had 4 write-ins, but they will have to do a tie break if all 4 or 3 are interested. And then these are our not accepted names. What the elections committee used was it had to be in. I don't have the actual what we decided in front of me. I would yield to Director.
It had to be a student we could find in the directory or spelled close enough to where we could determine intent to vote for a certain student. Could it be a celebrity? Could it be a religious figure? Could it be a social media influencer? Things like that.
Yes, so for Jill, obviously, we could not find intent of which Jill they wanted to vote for. Court King, Dr. King is in fact a chancellor, not a student, and then NA, not a student, and then the rest we could not find in the directory or if I searched female. I did try, so for some of the votes, maybe a Sam was actually in the directory as Samuel with the exact last name, we would count that. But so for these last 2, we tried different versions of last names, first names, and we just simply could not find them. I would yield to questions, and I would recommend any questions should someone have them. Sure.
Any questions for Madam Clerk? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, back on the clerk whenever you are ready.
Okay.
For that, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Senator Carter,
Aye.
Senator Dorsey,
Aye.
Senator Dewey,
Aye.
Senator Irwin,
Aye.
Senator Esterholm,
Aye.
Senator Heimel,
Aye.
Senator Houston,
Aye.
Senator Kelleher,
Aye.
Senator LaFlynn,
Aye.
Senator Nielsen,
Aye.
Senator Rosequist,
Aye.
Senator Schmidt,
Aye.
Senator West,
Aye.
Senator Williams, Speaker Wilson.
Aye. And with that, the unofficial election, WSG Senate election results have been confirmed unanimously. With that, we'll move on to announcements. The announcements for tonight. Director Smith?
If you are a senator or clerk who was mentioned in my legislation, see me after the meeting. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Alrighty, with that, we'll move on to adjournment. Making a motion to adjourn. Senator West.
Motion adjourned.
A second. Senator Schmidt. Can I get a voice vote? Wonderful. With that, it is 6 rise.
We gotta go see Director Smith. You didn't get another invite? You only got one?
Unless it was sent out.
It is. It's always gonna be in that same room.
Same room?
Yeah. 11 a.m. Wednesday.
11 a.m. Wednesday, perfect. Wait, 11 on your
11 a.m. Wednesday. Make it okay. You know, let them know you just need.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I don't know how great they
Not really. It sounds fun.
Yeah.
It sounds great.
So, do you have any questions about anything?
Please, no. We're not starting that. Thank you so much. I don't know why we could.
I can see your dad. She could, well, she could get like that.
No, it's good. That class that I had Tuesday was dropped out, so I don't have anything.
It's right upstairs.